Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Trump's tariffs are putting a chill on Windsor's economy. $6 billion in potential investments now in limbo. CBC's Chris Ensing brings us tonight's top story and a message from the mayor.
On day 10 of the negotiated pause of the economic war threat by U.S. President Donald Trump against Canada, the mayor of Windsor gave a State of the City address. The city's future looking a lot different than it did just a year ago. It started out with a few jokes, poking fun at the president's desire to rename bodies of water.
As President CEO of the Windsor Port Authority, heretofore, the Detroit River will now be called the Windsor River.
Next, at the suggestion of a table of Windsor business owners, a drinking game to stomach a serious threat.
And they're counting the number of times they're going to have a shot every time Dilkin says Trump or tariff in this speech. So you too can play along, and you can just keep track, because I actually don't know how many times I say Trump or tariff in this speech.
I stopped counting at 28. By that point, the laughing had stopped as well.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat it for anyone in this room, and I hope that I am dead wrong, but it may get rough.
Sweeping tariffs of 25% on all goods sent to the United States, catastrophic, he says. Think of the 2008 financial crisis, but worse.
It could be deeper. It could be deeper. That recession saw 16% unemployment. There was a lot of fear. We had, our largest employer going bankrupt. We had people flying to Alberta for work.
Windsor already has one of the highest unemployment rates in Canada, driven by a rapidly growing population. Dilkin says the region's economic development team is chasing down $6 billion worth of investments, 4,600 jobs. But those companies don't like this uncertainty.
Everyone is scared. The capital is parked on the sideline. They're waiting to see what happens. They want some certainty before they put hundreds of millions, in some cases, hundreds of millions of dollars on the table. And so they're not just jumping to the United States because they think that's a better environment. They're just waiting because they all think and we all feel that this is madness.
Madness driven by one man, says Dilkins, that's creating a patriotic wave in Windsor.
And do all the little things that send financial signals that we won't be taken advantage of by a bully. Stand tall, be proud to be Canadian, but please, and I know this can be hard, don't boo at the U.S. national anthem. We are better than that. We like our U.S. neighbors too much to hold them all accountable for the actions of a single American.
In 3 weeks, that single American can activate executive orders that would reshape North America's economy. Chris Ensing, CBC News, Windsor.
The family of a missing Windsor woman is speaking out from halfway across the world. The 26-year-old woman came here from Iran, and she's been missing since early last month. Police are investigating, but so far, no answers. For the family, distance has made the situation especially difficult to endure. Pratyush Thayal has more.
Helpless in Iran, the family of Shilan Shahbazia wants more police action on her disappearance. Shahbazia was last seen in this area on January 4th. More than a month later, Windsor police say that investigation is still ongoing. CBC spoke with the family with the aid of a translator. The family says Shahbazia came to Canada 16 months ago as an asylum seeker and had been working at this nail salon. The family says she immigrated for a better life and safety. But his daughter's disappearance has left Pervez Shahbazia critical of security in Canada and how the country treats immigrants. Her mother, Laila Tanahi, just wants to know what happened to Shahbazia and whether she's alive or not. While there's no answers yet, the family fears foul play.
And find Shilan.
Hilal Tanahi is the woman's uncle.
I have no one in Canada. It's not possible for us to travel there, and since Iran has no diplomatic relation with the Canada, we can't even pursue this matter through the Iranian government.
Her cousin Midya Marai, who helped with the translation, says the family wants more investigation.
I believe that if police chase this file more responsibility, we will find Shilan.
Back in Iran, the family of Shahbazia is praying for her safe return. The police say its investigators are dedicated to following any leads regarding Shahbazia's disappearance. Pratyush Thayal, CBC News, Windsor.
It's about to get easier to travel to and from the Twin Oaks Business Park. City Council gave it the green light this week. So here's exactly what's happening. The city will hire a transportation consultant, and their job is to find both short-term and long-term solutions to improve access to the area, which has been dealing with a number of traffic issues related to the construction of the Nexstar battery plant. And just last month, a woman crossing the road was struck by a vehicle and died. And the park had also been cut off from buses because of the construction. So starting next week, the Lozon 10 bus route will be altered to better service the park. And that's until a new route goes into effect later on. Forest Glade School is losing its immersion program in the fall. There is a public board meeting happening right now to explain the decision to parents. Anyone who wants to keep up with immersion will need to move to Tecumseh Vista Academy. One Windsor mom is angry with the decision and with how it was delivered.
We're angry about the way that this was unrolled. There's been no public consultation for it. There's been no public discussion. We received a letter home just this past Friday, rumpled at the bottom of my child's bag, without any other further communication about it. I followed up with the school on Monday and asked for additional communication to go out.
The school board says interest in immersion has been on the decline post-COVID, adding the decision to cut the program at Forest Glade was driven by the numbers. All right, we're going to turn to the weather now as conditions are intensifying in our region. We're going to take a look outside. These shots here taken in the last couple hours with a freezing rain warning in effect and some nasty conditions out there, and it's expected to intensify. So for more on that, we're going to bring in Colette Kennedy. Colette, what is the latest on the system that's moving through?
Yeah, and that almost looked pleasant there as it's just beginning, right? Some light snow, pretty. Yeah, things are going to be changing, and we'll have some mixed conditions as well, which can be very treacherous. So we do have the freezing rain warning, and we are in this as the temperature comes up and we get over that freeze line. Then we get some of this mixing precipitation, freezing rain, or even ice pellets. Not too far away, winter weather travel advisory, also there along the north shore of Lake Erie and on into the Niagara region. And then many areas, not a night tonight or a day tomorrow because of the winds behind the system for traveling. There are snowfall warnings and winter storm warnings as well. So what's happening now is we're seeing that's what came through a few hours ago. We get into a bit of a dry slot. It's not because it's over with or changed direction. It's going to be filling in back here. I'm going to show you the broader perspective of the system, and we'll get into what we're going to see in terms of the timeline, but the totals on snowfall when I return, because this is going to be quite the system having an impact tonight and through to tomorrow morning.
Okay, you are keeping a very close watch on that, Colette. Thank you.
You got it.
While Trump's tariff threats have been dominating headlines in the Ontario election campaign, healthcare advocates hope that ER wait times become a campaign issue and not put on the back burner. Sean Jeffords has more.
Emergency departments have become a war zone. That's a patient testimonial gathered by the Ontario Liberals and put on display at a campaign event today, as Bonnie Crombie tries to shift the spotlight of the election away from Trump and tariffs and on to hallway health care. She's promising to spend billions to get everyone a family doctor in the province, hike nursing wages, and expand hospitals, and slamming PC leader Doug Ford's record.
He didn't get it done. We know that wait times are twice as bad as they were in 2018. And today, 2.5 million people don't have a family doctor, and there are hour-long waits in our ERs.
Brodie Howlett knows that well. In 2022, he was diagnosed with a heart infection and spent months in and out of ERs.
It was, let's just say emergency rooms of 14, 16, 20 hours, sleeping in the bays as you wait for a room to come up.
Howlett says he's been paying close attention to this provincial election and wants fixing ER waits to become a ballot box question. And so do groups that represent Ontario's doctors, nurses, and hospitals. Emergency physician Dr. Andrew Park says cracks in the healthcare system were amplified coming out of the pandemic, and that is only increasing ER waits.
Our patients are much more complex, they're much sicker, their needs are higher, psychologically, physically, and so we're having a difficult time keeping up with that demand. Then you bring it on the emergency department side, and the waits get longer, tensions rise.
The president of the Ontario Nurses Association says a lack of staffing is a major contributor. Right now, the union is bargaining a new contract with the province. She says Ontario needs thousands more nurses to help cut waits.
Nurses are working shorthanded and in dangerous, chaotic situations, and it's completely avoidable and unacceptable.
The head of the Ontario Hospital Association says he'd welcome a greater focus on reducing ER waits as part of the election debate. Hospitals are making strides to reduce those waits, and he's hopeful that a debate can be solutions-oriented.
The last 2 years, I'd say we look at the public debate and it at times verges on hysterics. That's not doing a thing to improve, to bolster or improve public confidence in the system.
The Liberals aren't alone in making big healthcare spending promises. The NDP say they'll spend $4 billion to connect everyone in the province with a family doctor or a nurse practitioner. The PC say they'll spend $1.9 billion to connect everyone to primary care. And the Greens say they will hire more healthcare workers in every region of the province.
But for Howlett, his message to all the parties is simple.
Get together in a room and figure out a 20-year plan to get healthcare back on track.
Sean Jeffords, CBC News, Toronto.
The Ontario Green Party got a leg up on its competition today, becoming the first major party to release a fully costed platform in the provincial election. Lane Harrison breaks down all of the details.
Doug Ford has abandoned the people of Ontario, but the Ontario Greens are ready.
Green Party leader Mike Schreiner says his team punches above their weight, and today he's proving it, becoming the first major party to release a costed platform this election.
We're going to bring generational fairness back to the housing market, so a whole generation of young people know that they can find a home that they can afford, and that seniors can downsize into a home they can afford in the community they know and love. And we will do that with a commitment to build 2 million homes over the next decade.
That's a one-up on the PC's 2022 pledge to build 1.5 million homes by 2031, a promise that's not on track to be met. Schreiner says the Greens will do it by allowing anyone to build a fourplex in the province or a sixplex in larger cities, plus allowing 11-story buildings along major transit routes, and eliminating development charges on smaller homes.
We'll address the deep unfairness in this province that over 81,000 people are experiencing homelessness by having government get back into building affordable and deeply affordable nonprofit co-op and supportive housing with a commitment to build 310,000 affordable homes in this province.
The Greens also promised to turn Ontario Place into a park, not a spa, and create a food belt, prime farmland protected from housing or road development, with the Greens planning to cancel the development of Highway 413.
And that's exactly what we need in politics. MPPs who are going to put people before politics, people before their leader, and that's how we will continue to operate at Queen's Park.
The Green leader was joined by his only other sitting MPP, Aislinn Clancy, today, as well as Parry Sound Muskoka's Matt Richter.
I'm Matt Richter,
who lost to Conservative Graydon Smith by about 2,000 votes in 2022. The PCs say the party's plan will be released in the coming days. As far as the other opposition parties stand, the NDP has released a plan for southwestern Ontario and the Niagara region, though it doesn't include line-by-line budgeting like the Greens platform does. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie told reporters today that her party will be releasing a fully costed platform during the election, though she didn't say exactly when. Lane Harrison, CBC News, Toronto.
Do you have a story that you think we should cover? We want to hear from you. You can send us your ideas. You can reach us by text message at 519-984-2051. You can also email us at windsor@cbc.ca. And I want to remind you that we also have a 24/7 streaming channel. You can check us out on CBC Gem. And if you've got a Roku TV, you can check out our live channel on there as well. And for all your other news needs, you can always go to our website, cbc.ca. trudeau.com/Windsor. Stay with us. When we come back, how Canadians are making some big changes to their travel plans in the midst of Trump's tariff threats. And of course, we are continuing to watch this Ontario storm moving on through. We'll have Colette Kennedy back with us later on in the program as well. Welcome back. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was in Brussels today. He was meeting with European Union leaders and the head of NATO. All the while, U.S. President Donald Trump continues to make threats to allies' sovereignty, economy, and defense. The CBC's Ashley Burke reports.
The Prime Minister meeting with European allies in Brussels as they all face growing threats from Donald Trump.
The story between the European Union and Canada, it is the story of good allies and it is the story of trusted friends. And trust is very much needed in an unpredictable world.
Trudeau's talks included the mutual benefits of trade.
Trade agreements are clearly better than trade tariffs.
Along with tariff threats Trump has mused about annexing Canada, rhetoric Trudeau has said is a real thing.
Let's be very clear.
conversations around a 51st state are a non-starter. It's never going to happen. But we have to take seriously what the president is saying.
Trudeau's defense minister joining him in Brussels, striking a hopeful note with allies about that annexing threat.
I do not believe that represents a real threat to us, but those remarks are disrespectful and concerning.
But from Trump's U.S. Defense Secretary, fresh calls that members like Canada do more and spend much more.
The United States will no longer tolerate an imbalanced relationship which encourages dependency.
And he echoed recent Trump comments that NATO countries should spend 5% of GDP on defense. That's up from the 2% benchmark Canada's yet to hit.
This is something we have taken seriously, and we agree with all our allies, including the United States, that Canada needs to do more. That's why we are doing more.
The defense minister says the U.S. doesn't spend 5% of its GDP on defense, and that there will be a discussion at NATO about what the level should be. But for now, he's focused on trying to hit 2% as soon as possible. Canada's official deadline is 2032. Ashley Burke, CBC News, Brussels.
Travel agencies across the country are reporting that hundreds of Canadians are canceling trips south of the border, all in response to those U.S. tariffs. And as Michelle Gassoub reports, the U.S. tourism sector is warning that could threaten tens of thousands of American jobs.
When I travel, I'll be telling people, I'm from Canada.
A surge in Canadian pride brought on by a potential looming trade war with the U.S.
I don't like his politics, the way that he's treating Canadian people or Canada.
It's not just a war of words. This travel agent says Canadians are canceling trips to the U.S. in droves.
But this time definitely feels different. This has been a much more tangible reaction from clients who are actually outright canceling trips.
The potential dollar impact of those cancellations is big. According to the U.S. Travel Association, a 10% dip in inbound travel from Canada could translate to $2.1 billion in lost spending and jeopardize 140,000 American jobs.
In most destinations in the U.S., Canada is the #1 international market. So looking at places like Las Vegas, Palm Springs, Orlando, Phoenix, a lot of those Sunbelt destinations are going to be hit really hard.
Those in the travel industry say the weak Canadian dollar was already impacting U.S. travel. The economic threats have many Canadians saying anywhere but the U.S.
Canadians are taking a stand in solidarity. They're showing Americans, or rather the U.S. administration, where they're going to spend their tourism dollars.
So far, it's hard to put a figure on how many trips have been canceled. Data from Statistics Canada and the U.S. Bureau of Transportation don't yet reflect the last 2 weeks. But the message in the travel industry is clear.
When I've been speaking to some of our customers, what I'm hearing a lot is trust. The trust has been broken. I think that's just the same word that I keep hearing over and over again. And they're just not feeling safe to travel there right now.
Canadians staying close to home in the face of so much uncertainty. Michelle Gassoub, CBC News, Vancouver.
We are, of course, continuing to monitor that freezing rain warning as that Ontario storm rolls through. It's affecting a lot of the province, and we're dodging some of it. But Colette Kennedy will be back right after the break to talk us through the storm and the days that follow as well. Stay with us. got Colette Kennedy back with us now. You're tracking this storm for us, Colette, as well as the different conditions occurring within the storm as well. So talk us through it.
Yeah, that's right. It's a very broad storm, and with changing temperatures, and we're kind of going to be right in the thick of that, where that freeze line is that we talk about. And with that, we'll see our conditions changing. So snow, and then getting into ice pellets and freezing rain, and then perhaps snow on the back end again. And I would expect that. So that could put a layer of ice in between or underneath a pile of snow. That can certainly be very treacherous. So lots of things to be thinking about. Showing you the freezing rain warning that we are in with Environment Canada for southwestern Ontario. Not too far away there, but along the north shore of Lake Erie, winter weather travel advisory. And then across the rest of the province where the snowfall totals will be even higher, even through Sarnia here, we get into a snowfall warning in the areas in red, a winter storm warning. So you get the idea of why travel is not a good idea tonight or even tomorrow if you're traveling eastward, because you'd be moving towards where that storm is headed. Our current temperatures, definitely we're in the cold sector of this storm system right now. Our temperatures well below freezing. What happens is as we go through the overnight, we'll find that temperature profile rising, getting there closer to zero, and maybe even by tomorrow morning a little bit above. That's why we get the mixing until the temperature drops again as it exits. We have a wind chill. The winds, not that strong right now. They become stronger on the backside of this system. We'll get to that in a moment. Showing you some of that snow that went through earlier. It seemed kind of light and delightful, and now we're in a drier slot. But all of this, as I broaden the view and you can see just how large the storm is, all of this is going to be filling in and pushing towards southwestern Ontario. As it comes in, snow continues. The snowfall rates will increase 2, 3, perhaps even 4 centimeters per hour. But then we get closer to that freeze line where there's mixing, either freezing rain or some ice pellets, and of course the green being rain. And winds are so close to that doorstep. We could stay on that colder side and end up with 15 centimeters plus, but very close by, like even Leamington, Chatham, Kent, those being a little bit lower, like more in the 10 centimeter or less because of the mixing that occurs. 7 a.m. tomorrow, yeah, it's left us, but that's when those winds will start to ramp up. So I do want you to be aware we'll get into some flurries coming back at us with some snow squalls. This showing you that differential of what we may well be seeing because of those different conditions in southwestern Ontario. So very close by, it may be less than 10, and above that as we are a little closer to Windsor or certainly towards Sarnia.
Okay, thank you so much for that breakdown, Colette. And thanks to you all for watching. Please stay safe out there with those conditions. Have a good night.